Guys, for today's lesson we are going to create a search in Flutter. A search will be calling APIs from the backend. This search implementation is different from other implementations, which will be filtering list from the UI. So for now we will be calling directly data from the backend, and this is the efficient implementation we will be having, and we will be using Material UI. So for now I've created a project already, and I have turned on emulator, and I have already learned the application, and I think that's the normal implementation for Flutter. Every developer is familiar with. That's why I skipped them. And for now, we can jump with the real implementation of the search. And with the start, this is the default file for Flutter. While creating a project, we are going to add our implementation, our functions to call the APIs. So for now, let's create a future function which will be loading data from the API. We are going to display the default data, and we will implement search after. So in this project we will be using a plugin to do HTTP request that is called Dio. It's one of the popular packages on the package manager, and this will be calling our APIs, and we have the default APIs we will be calling. We have here in the Postman. Let's copy the URL and call the APIs, and we have the default key that we will be using. You can replace this key with yours, and this is the key. I have it in a constant file here. Let's add a wait to retrieve the data from the API as normal, and here we are going to declare the variable that will be receiving the data from the backend. But before declaring the variable, we have also to create the class that will be holding the data. So for the casting of the JSON file, we'll be creating file for it. So let's create another folder. Here we call it JSON, and we add a file, create a file called the movie. We create a class, we call it the movie. And for this tutorial, for the APIs, return so many data, and we will be displaying few data just to save time. Let's have title and a poster and overview, and those fields are enough. Let's have title, and then we have poster, and then after we have overview. And I think those variables are enough to demonstrate our search API. So we declare a constructor that will be used to initialize the object. So we pass the JSON object that comes as a map, which will be used to hold the data from the API. So we gather here in the Postman, we see the keys that are being used in the APIs. We take the title. After taking the title, we take the overview. After taking an overview, we go to the Postman, we get an overview. This is here, an overview. After taking an overview, we have even poster. We get this poster path. Yes, and this is the object that will be holding our list of data from the backend after calling an API. So we go back to our widget where we are going to call this API. We hold the response from the Dio, And after declaring the response, we have to check the status of the request. If the status code is code 200, it means that our request has been successful. This is where we put the implementation of receiving the data from the backend. Else, it means that the request has failed. You throw an error, you show a message, you show something to show the user that the internet is not available, the server down, or something else. And also for the network request, we also add the try and catch, because if the request fails, it will obviously throw an error. So we add the catch to make sure that it is not going to freeze the UI or do something we don't want. So in the if condition, we are going to receive the data from the backend. So let's declare the variable, the list, which will be holding the data from the backend. This will be the list of movies. As you remember, we declared the class called the movie. That's the one we'll be using here. We create a list, we initialize it with empty array. So, and after that, we are going to assign this variable with the data from the backend. After checking that the status code is code to 200, so after that we receive the data from the response. And as you see, the page, this API returns the map. So the map, to access the nested array, we use this key called the lizard. So we hold the data like this, and as you see, this variable is iterable. We cast it to iterable, then we call map, and we declare the movie constructor. Then we have our data as list. So we declare val list. Then you can see now we have the data from the backend. This is the list from the backend. And after getting the list from backend, you have to set state to refresh the UI, and you assign our variable, which will be holding the data to be displayed, and we assign the casted list, and we set state to refresh the UI with updated data. So as you know, we use list view builder for the large list. We are going to use list view.builder. We use context index, then we return the container. So with the list view builder, we also pass another parameter for item count, and we get the count from our list. So as this. And for the beta implementation, we are going to add this item or the law of the list in separate file. I think it's a better implementation, so to separate code and to keep the files clear. So let's create another folder here. We call it partial, where we can have all partial widgets that now for the screen. So we create an item, we call it movie item. So we call class movie item extend stateless widget, and we create missing and override, and this will be passing a movie item, a movie JSON data, because the one which is holding data will be displayed. And we add constructor. So then return card. This card we are going to add column so that you can display an image. This image, but before displaying the image, we also have the image URL that we have from the Postman. This will be the URL image. So then we concatenate it with poster path. So you remember this, the variable we've been keeping the path of the poster from the data, and this how will be displaying the image. So let's continue with other implementations. Let's go back to our main file where we'll be displaying movie item, and we'll be passing the list on its respective index. So I think this is the implementation first, and we forget to do another something. We also have to add init state where we'll be loading the data after the initialization of this widget. After the widget is initialized, we also call the API to load the data and display it by default before the user can do a search. So this init state run by default after the widget is initialized. So we add the implementation to make that this another implementation is for checking that the widget has finished to be implemented. So we call the load data. So and then we show our simulator, then we reload the UI to check that the data will get loaded. As you can see, we have those movies item, and the display might not look good, but that's not our interest for right now. But we can also add the title. With the title, we have movie.title. You can see that the title also is displayed, and you can also display the overview. As the overview, I made it enable because I think all the movies may not have. Also, we have to add null safety operator to make sure it is well displayed. So to differentiate the title and the overview, we have to add some style. Let's use the default material UI style. Let's add headline medium, or use title large. This is too large. Okay, this is too good. So let's add the padding to add some spaces, and this is cool. We'll also add vertical padding here. Dot metric dot only top 10. So and I think this is enough for the UI. We can continue with our search implementation. After displaying all these movies here, for now we are going to continue with our search implementation. So with search implementation, we are going to do something here. We are going to add search button. First of all, we come back to our main widget. We go to the up bar action. We add icon button on place. We show search icons dot search. So as you see, we have added the search icon. So now we are going to command what to do when we click search button. So when you click search button, we have default Flutter method, which is called show search, which will pass context and search delegate. And this search delegate will be created in another file to separate files and to make codes clear. So we are going to create a search delegate. This search delegate is the default implementation of search in Flutter. So let's create it in a separate file. Let's call it custom search delegate. So create custom search delegate, and we will be extending search delegate, as you can see. And we have to add missing overrides. We build actions, we build the results, we build the suggestions, and etc. For the suggestions, we also return for build results to make it quick. And for this, we will be passing a function delegate. So we will be passing a function to render our search component, will be a function which will be returning a widget and access query as a parameter. This function will be called data. Let's add final constructor for this search field. So for actions, we'll be returning the empty array. It's not that big deal or build the building. So we add the default back arrow. We'll get it from another project here. We get it search delegate. Build the app val, build the reading. Yes, let's use this one. This is the default one. Yes, this is the one. This is enough. And for the result, we will be returning the function we used to return. We will pass a query. This query variable will be the one which will be used. And here we are going to pass our custom search delegate. So we pass the data. As you see, this is the query. This is query variable will be saving the search query we have typed. So we open emulator. So then let's by default return container here, and we'll be replacing this container with our search widget. As you see, we have search bar, default material search bar. You can see this is familiar. If you are familiar with the Android Studio, you know this. You can search, you can write, and this will have the implementation, and this will read us. So let's go with next step. We are going to create another component. We will be doing implementation of search, calling the search API from the backend. So let's go. Let's create a file for searching. Search, let's call it search screen. Search screen extends Tetris, but for this, because it has dynamic data, we'll be creating, we convert it to stateful, and we are going to pass search query in this API. So we are going to also to add constructor, and to make it quick, we are going to use the previous implementation. We are going to copy those data that we used in the first API. We copy, bring it in this is search bar, but we have to remove the app bar because for here it's not really necessary. So we are going to change the API we are calling from here, because you have different API for listing the default and another API for searching. We are going to replace this, compile the API with new API for search. So let's go and look for search API. We have search API here. Of course, search movie. This is the one we'll be replacing with this one, and we have it here, as you see. With this search API, we're going to replace with this one. Sure. And for the query parameters, we are going to add the query variables, and as you know, we have to encode it to make sure that there will be no conflict with other special characters that are in the URL. So we are going to pass our query. And this is, and for better implementation, we are also going to add what we call cancer token. Cancer token is used what? Cancer token will be used to kill all the previous HTTP requests, because when we are searching, we type in the URL and type in the text field and it do multiple HTTP requests, and it's better to use cancer token to make sure that the previous request has been destroyed and start another one, making sure that the previous one has been destroyed. So let's add cancer token. We will pass it as a parameter, final cancer token. We add the cancer token and then we add it in this constructor. And before calling here for the get, we can also pass the cancer token as in dial request. We have to add the widget dot cancer token. So, and before running an API, we have to use the cancer token by canceling all the requests that are associated with the token. So we are API, we say that we are cancelled. So wherever this token is abused, all the requests will be cancelled. So that's all. And for where we're calling search, we are going to, we press this container with search screen and we will be passing a query. And here we are going to declare our cancer token cancer token. So we'll be passing token. This token will be used to destroy any kind of request that are associated with it. So when you have the previous request and you do the new one, we make sure that we destroyed the old request. So let's go. I think this is the better implementation, but with search we don't need this initial state. Say another thing is we have to check that the query has changed. So Flutter lifecycle have this function called with the update widget, which will be used to check if the query has changed, to check that the lifecycle variables has changed. So, and this will be used to compare the previous variable and the update one. So let's say if old widget, here we have old widget dot query not equal to widget dot query, this means that the search query has changed. So if the search query has changed, we have to do another request. We have to fetch another data from the server, and that's all. So I think that's enough. Let's do a search and see how things are going. So quick search is also, let's see the list and see the movie we are going to search. Let's search like this called Avatar. You go search, right, Avatar. It's not searching, and we have to see in the exception to see what's happening there, to make sure what's not searching. I say the request has been cancelled. So okay, this means that the request has been cancelled. So we check the error. Okay, so we have to call Avatar. So let's refresh the API. We go with Avatar. Here we have the the API is returning invalid status code of unauthorized. So check if we have passed the API key. Yeah, sure, there is a simple error here which has not been fixed. We will have to add the end operator. So avatar type null is not subtype of string, so something is nullable here. Maybe the something here is nullable. So we have to check first of all the response data that we are receiving from this URL. Let's check from the postman first of all. To check the data we are receiving from the API, valid API key. No, here we use query avatar for the API key. This is where we are going to use the key. So for the key, we have to remove this invalid API key. Okay, you have to add this request from the correction. So first, sorry guys, I have to add this request from the correction to make sure that we have a key. So as you can see, this is the results we are receiving from the search API. We have original title, overview, we have poster path, and those are the data. So I think it's the same data, and you have to see why. Okay, you can see now it's searching. You can see the data. Let's say you have to add avatar. You can see that the avatar are coming. We search home alone. You can see dragons. We search kung fu. You can see the kung fu panda, and this is the real-time implementation of the search. So whenever the key change, we make the request, and here we use the cancel token to be canceling the previous request. So let's use cancel token again to check why it was failing before. Let's call avatar. So this cancel token will be declared on each request. So let's have a static one. Let's have static cancel token. So we'll be changing on each search. Whenever we use search query, we have to use to create a new cancel token. So we have to take the previous cancel token, then cancel. We use the reason for cancel. So then with the cancel token, we'll be using this static one that we're going to use. We'll be changing every time. So you can see the result here, and you have to say like home. You wait. Home. You can see the data are here. Can write. So for the movie of the music, you can see. I think this is the best implementation of search through backend APIs, and this is the better sometimes when you have much data from the backend, so you can't fetch all them all the time. So thank you for watching, and make sure you watch the next video. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.